Those were his words. You have a big ass fibroid. They did the MRI. I spoke to the radiologist and he says, well, there's no fibroid there. I was like, well, one, I could have told him that because I didn't feel it. So
this right here is such confirmation that it was the right thing. We knew we had to do it.
June of 2015, I had a myomectomy to remove a fibroid. And one of the things that was important for me was to not have the fibroid come back. I actually joined the program in December of 2016. So I was in the program January 2017, where we had more of an intimate, you were available to have these different calls and things like that.
The Hope Beyond Fibroids Elimination Program, right?
Yes, under Hope Beyond Fibroids, yes. As long as I was taking the elixirs and following the diet, I was good. Mm-hmm. And then I got comfortable and I decided that I was going to eat regularly. And honestly, particularly, I started eating meat again. Mm. And I think, as Dr. Amun said, you listen to your body. I think meat, flesh is the death of me. Mm-hmm. That is my fibroid inducer. So at that time, I had started eating meat again. And lo and behold, in 2017, fibroids came back. And I wasn't taking the elixirs. And again, I wasn't eating, according to the guidelines in the foods. So it took me, I'm going to say, maybe 2 or 3 months of eating like that when the fibroid came back. Like it was almost instantaneous for me. Wow. And I was like, okay, wait a minute. And I felt it.
How did you know?
I felt it. It was just like this big old thing in my gut, honestly. So I felt it. So I knew that just eating that way, and that's how I can say that I believe that the meat was the trigger. Mm-hmm. The chicken, the fish, all of that was the trigger, because almost instantaneously it showed up. The fibroid showed up.
Well, the interesting thing is that flesh, as you so well put it, has hormones. Any living animals have hormones that are now, and most of the foods, of course, the hormones, they're also fed with hormones, and those hormones are triggering off more estrogen dominance in our body, right? Yes, so yes. Going back, tell me about when you found out you had a 10 centimeter fibroid and how that happened.
So I had a pelvic sonogram. Ultrasound actually, and that was actually in 2017. Well, I didn't even actually have to have the sonogram. My gynecologist did one of my usual exams, and he was like, "You have a big ass fibroid." Those were his words. "You have a big ass fibroid." So being on the examining table, hearing somebody say,
"Lisa's being honest." Lisa's being honest.
Yeah. Right. So, he didn't have to tell me that because I felt it, but, he confirmed it for me. So, of course, he had me do the transvaginal pelvic exam. And that's when he was able to confirm that I did have the fibroid. And that was actually back in 2017. Well, yeah, 2017. And from 2017 until 2021, this year, I suffered.
Wow.
I heavy periods. I stopped eating meat. And I thought that with me not eating the meat, that would help in terms of shrinking it. I still was not taking any of the elixirs, from the previous program, from the Hope program. I just tried to modify the diet by removing flesh. So from 2017 until 2021, I was suffering with menses, the heavy cycles, the clotting, you name it, I was suffering with it.
Wow. Did you feel why did you get the supplements at the time?
Well, because again, I'm thinking that, maybe if I cut back on what I'm eating, that might help. And the other part of it was costly. That was another reason why I had to cut back, because it was costly. And at the time, there was certain supplements that you had to have together. And it's like, well, I can only afford to get maybe 1 or 2 of them. I can't get a whole one, right? Because the way it was set up was that I had to have different ones. in order for it all to work in conjunction. So that was another piece for me. I couldn't continue with the elixirs, and I said, well, I would just have to try eating, following the food list and eating as healthy as I could to help with the situation, because I just financially, it was just too much.
Right. See, this literally, I promise you, I had no idea that this was happening. Specifically, I didn't talk to Natarsia about this, but this is what we were hearing all the time.
Oh,
and this is exactly why.
Influx of emails.
Influx, and we were like, we're working on it, but Dr. Amun and I could not make it happen, okay? Because it was not our decision. We were fighting for it, okay? Literally fighting.
And it was a fight. I was a CFO, there was a CEO, and then there was a CCO. So there was like 40, 40, 20 split. So it was like 60% against the 40. And anyone knows about business,
the
majority always overrules. And it was a constant fight, constant fight.
Constant. And for real, so I want to go back to your testimony, Natarsia, because it just, we know when like, it's just confirmation that, what we did, Dr. Amun, like this, we knew we would get criticized. We knew some people would look at us side eye like, well, does that mean your formulas are cheaper? Does that mean that they're less efficacious? Does that mean that they're not as good?
Efficacy is in the proof of the pudding.
Yeah, so let's keep going to Natasia's testimony.
You're opening up too much kind of worms.
I know. Keep going, Natarsia. Keep going.
I'm like Biggie, I got a story to tell.
Go ahead, Natarsia. Go ahead, baby. Continue.
So that was my reasoning. It was just it wasn't affordable for me. So I did that, and in that time I was suffering in terms of the menses, and it was just a lot. And then last year, to make things even worse, I started getting nauseous and I had vomiting, so I couldn't even hold down water when I'm during my menses. So it was just like, okay, I'm calling out from work. We've been working from home and I still can't work because the pain is too much, right? So I suffered, I really did. But then up until early this year, I said, I can't do this anymore. This is too much. So something has to happen. And ironically or not, this seems to be in alignment with when was transitioning from where your former partners to where we are right now. Because for me, it was like January of 2021. So in February of 2021, I went to my doctor and he said, yes, we do have you have a fibroid, you have it's a 10 centimeter fibroid. Your option is hysterectomy or myomectomy. I'm like, wait a minute. I said, so every time I get a fibroid, I have to have surgery. I said, that's not a solution. But that was the solution that he had. I did it once, you could do it again. I was like, okay, that's not going to work for me. Then after speaking with the gynecologist, I said, let me really get into this now. So in March, I started taking the mass and the balance
together. Right.
And fast forward to July of 2021, they did the MRI. I spoke to the radiologist and he says, well, there's no fibroid there. I was like, well, one, I could have told him that because I didn't feel it. So he only confirmed what I already knew in the test result. So yes.
There you go.
Phenomenal.
Congratulations.
Yes.
Phenomenal.
Yes.
Phenomenal. And Natarsia, one of the things that we worked so hard to do is that we wanted it to work more efficiently and efficacious. We wanted to be more successful in terms of the program work better while still cutting back on the price. That. So when people say, well, you cut the price and what, did you make it cheaper in terms of the quality? No, ma'am. No, sir.
No, not at all.
We cut back on our profit. That's what we
did.